Hi, my name's Ilma, and today I'd like to share Galatians 6 1 to 5. Brothers and sisters, even if a person is caught in any wrongdoing, you who are spiritual are to restore such a person in a spirit of gentleness, each one looking to yourself so that you are not tempted as well. Bear one another's burden and thereby fulfill the law of Christ. For if anyone thinks that he is something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. But each one must examine his own work, and then he will have reason for boasting, but to himself alone, and not to another. For each one will bear his own load. Galatians 6 1 to 5. Here's my devotional. Bear one another's burden and bear your own load. In this letter to the Galatians, Paul emphasizes the responsibility of believers to others, whether they are new in the faith or have been spiritual for long. In verse 1, the act of confrontation with the spirit of gentleness is expected from every Christian. It is the responsibility of those who are more spiritually mature to correct and bring truth to those who are in error. But it is important to do it in love and a spirit of kindness and calmness so that you may not be tempted to think highly of yourself. In verse 2, we hear Paul state the second most important command that Christ summed up from the law in Matthew 22:36 to 40. When his disciples asked him which was the greatest commandments, Paul expounded the second command to take care of your neighbor as yourself. Here, he asked each believer to be present for each other, helping each other carry one another's burden. It is a way to fulfill the law of Christ. It is a manifestation that you love one another just as Jesus commanded. In verse 3, Paul cautions the importance of looking after each other so that we do not fall into the dangerous trap of thinking highly of ourselves, which can make us proud or think we're better than others. In verse 4, he reminds us to closely examine what we do for each other so that we can be free from boasting to others. He says that we can only boast to ourselves quietly, but not to one another. I think Paul is guarding our hearts from being haughty and full of ourselves. That is why he admonished us to keep it to ourselves. Words are very powerful, and if we say out loud our boastings, it may affect others differently and cause them to sin as well. Verse 5 reminds us to set boundaries to ourselves and others. We can share our burdens, but not to a point of being irresponsible and not accountable for our own roles and responsibilities. If we cross this boundary, we are in violation of the laws of order that God has placed in all of His creation. Reflection. What results from bearing each other's burdens and bearing our own as well? I think if we share each other's burden, we will avoid being discouraged, and we will be encouraged. We will be able to recognize that we're not the only ones going through the same thing. So bearing each other's burden is actually following the second command, which is to love one another as Christ loves us and as we love ourselves. When we were all created in the image of Christ, of God, and when we do not follow the image that God created us, which is love, then we become isolated, we become separate from Him, we become more selfish, and that is a result of not sharing or being isolated. We become more into ourselves, we become more self-centered, we become more following all our cravings and the desires of the flesh. So it's not good not to bear each other's burden or not to open up to other believers, because when you don't do that, you're not following the mandate of loving one another as you love yourself or as you love God. Thanks for watching. Happy New Year. Today is 2021, and I wish you all the the health, that you will be able to survive all this pandemic and all these complications that we're going through in the whole entire world. But I'd like to give you a blessing. May you all be able to recognize the importance of looking up to God at these times of trouble. And I hope that you will find that maybe God is making us have changes and embrace these changes so we can have a life that is closer to Him, a life that is dependent on Him, a life that is obedient on His Word. Thanks for watching. God loves you so much, and I hope you subscribe to my channel on YouTube for more videos for the Lord. And then I hope that you check my website at Ilma'S.com for artworks and photographs. Have a blessed day and a good new year that is full of love and full of dependence on God.